Anyway, as I was saying, today I am illustrating a park scene, um, and I've made this preliminary sketch just in Clip Studio Paint, and what I'm doing is just refining it, trying to get a bit more structure and refining out those um, the body language of some of these characters. And for those who are just joining, I am a budding illustrator, and children's book illustration is something that I would love to do full time, but it's currently not possible because I don't have any clients. And so in my free time, I do like to practice just doing my own illustrations, and this is one of those. I'm basically telling a scene, a story here about. Well, I was at the park the other day. Let's just start from there, and I saw a dog going crazy at this duck that was just swimming along. It was minding its own business. But this dog was going crazy because of the duck, and everyone was just so calm and collected at the park, and they were so happy to just enjoy some of the good weather. And I thought to myself, how funny would it be if the dog fully just went for it and started trying to eat the duck? Like, people's reactions would change in an instant. And well, that thought kind of stayed with me, and then I thought, oh well, I can tell that kind of short story in this really easy. It's almost a 3-panel sketch, and all I've got here is this very long format image, landscape image, and I'm kind of blocking that up into 3 parts. So I'm going to be telling the story like this. First panel on the left is where we see some characters just totally in awe or totally shocked at what's going on. In the second image in the middle, we kind of see why, or perhaps we're setting up, well, I'm setting up what's actually going to happen here. We know that there's something up with the swan in the middle, but there's also a character in the background who's not very happy, who's running around. And finally, in that third panel on the right, we see what's going on in all of its entirety. And basically, yeah, we see that the dog has escaped from his master and is now, yeah, at risk of eating the duck. Or jumping on the duck. Let's not say eating, because then we would imply that the duck's not going to make it. And sorry, the swan. I keep saying duck. Anyway, this character here, I'm not too happy with his expression and his body language. And he's going to be leaning forward, putting that weight on that forward foot, and he's lost the lead, which is where the dog's kind of taken him. I like that that body language a lot more than what it was previously. Okay, and another thing I'm trying to do here is to emulate the art style of one of my favorite illustrators, Quentin Blake. I mentioned this in other streams as well, and Quentin Blake, who's the illustrator of most of the Roald Dahl books, just fantastic, just easy, quick sketches, and they're just so much fun. They're so easy, and they're so, yeah, just so much fun to look at because of all the life in them. And I'd like to emulate that in my style. Here, I'm just fixing a bit of the perspective because this pond here doesn't really have any depth to it. That should be going more like that. So get rid of that. Yeah, but the perspective and the rest of this image all has to kind of line up, and that's what I'm trying to do. Just a few extra bits and a few extra lines here and there. And a bit of suggestion of the pond there. So I'm like a starting illustrator. I don't really have anything to point to and say, well, I've finished this project. And I know that's really bad, and I'm trying to change that. I'm still deciding what kind of project I want to invest all my time into. Yeah, I mean, there's just so many options, aren't there? There's so many things you can do with your time. And just deciding what you want to do is always a challenge, regardless of if you're doing art or whatnot. Whatever hobby you have, that's like, yeah, it's a choice that you make. What do you want to do with your time? Play Pokemon Go or play other video games? It's all a choice. And for me, I just want to make the right choice. I want to make the best choice that I can. That means kind of sitting on my ideas for a bit longer before I actually go ahead and invest that time into creating a project. Of course, not waiting too long because that would be a shame. I don't want to be a sitting duck. I don't want to never put out a project. But I do have a reasonable output. I'm not quite at the levels of Bobby Chu or anything like that, but I'm pretty happy with the way that I'm producing every day and getting back in that arena of production. Well, we don't call it production. It's just because that makes it sound very forced, kind of like a job, but it's not a job. It's something that I like doing. I like depicting things with pictures, and I like telling short little stories with them as well. So this is not a job. This is something I would be doing anyway. And streaming's become a part of it as well, where I kind of don't really know what I'm doing, but it's good fun, and I kind of like the potential there, even though I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing right, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but these are things that I'll learn along the way. And even if no one's really watching, well, I mean, there are people watching, and I'm really grateful for you being here. But if people um, don't watch anyway, then I'd still be illustrating. I just wouldn't be talking, and that's fine. I'm kind of an introvert at heart, so well, I think most artists are. Most artists are pretty eccentric, but you have to be pretty introverted to be able to come up with all of the ideas for projects and things like that. So this guy's got hand over his mouth. And I'm going to reduce that expression down just a little bit because I have that expression repeated across most of the characters here, most of the figures. Just more of a concerned look rather than Let's fix up his body language a bit. Move some elements around. But yeah, I stand by my hypothesis that most artists are introverts. It's pretty rare to find a fully extroverted artist because when you're creating they say is a very individual process. It's a this is what I hear anyway, and it's what I find to be true, just in my own experience. So in creating is an individual thing, and if you're going to be on your own so often, then you've got to be pretty happy with that. And so I think the introvert kind of fits the stereotype, kind of fits the bill for what an artist might need. Just time to recharge on his or her own, and just being okay with not having others around all the time. Doesn't mean that I don't have my bouts of wanting to be around people, because I certainly do. But I'm an introvert. I'm an introvert at heart. Okay, what was that? Nope, didn't mean to do that. Yeah, introvert at heart, and I wouldn't have it any other way, to be perfectly honest. And there's our grandma figure in the background. She's just going to be chilling there on her seat. That's perfectly fine. Let's put some foliage in the way. Now I've accidentally gone and done an extra layer for some of the background elements, so that's a bit annoying. But I'll switch back and forth and get that done. Now I'm pretty happy with this so far. There's two things that I want to redo, and those are the dog and the swan in the middle, because I haven't quite nailed the anatomy of it. Like its wings are currently just sticking out of the top of its back, and that's not quite what happens. Keep following that C curve. So yeah, if you're watching, I'd love it if you said hi. How's your day? How are you going? I hope you're doing well. And thanks for watching. Or even if you're watching this after the stream, I do record all of my videos, so if you're watching it afterwards, I hope you like my Twitch channel. And you can follow and look at my Instagram, look at my Facebook. There's always sorts of ways that you can get in touch. Or yeah, if you're an author who's illustrating, who's looking for an illustrator for your children's book, then check out my portfolio, get in touch. If you like my stuff, or if you think we could work in the future together, I'd be so happy to hear from you. And even if things don't work out, I hope I'd be able to help you anyhow with pointing you in the right direction toward the right people that you need to get in contact with if you want to get the right illustrator for your project. Now this leg here is a bit wrong because this leg here is in the background and it should be shorter, just by definition, just because of the perspective. So that looks a bit better. And these action lines here, I can kind of tailor them. And I'll make them so much thinner than the rest of the thing, than the rest of the image and the lines. It just makes sense. So thin width. All right. With that all done, I'm gonna call that done on the actual line work. And I'm gonna take a short drink. And when I'm back, I'm gonna do a bit of coloring. Set that all up now. And I'm back. So, looking at this again, I want to be very mindful of what the image looks like when I'm in a zoomed out mode. So I'm zooming out and I'm taking a look at what stands out. And currently there's nothing that stands out because everything kind of has a similar weight and there's just a lot of information on the page. So I'm gonna bring out a little bit of the swan, as well as the figures here and the dog, because those are the important things. Um, well, the things that I want to bring attention to anyway. So I'm going to bring out a bit more of the swan. It doesn't have to be much, but just enough so that on a first read of the image, this is sounding kind of technical now, but on a first read of the image, they call it a read. It's basically the first impression you get when you look at it. Yeah, I'd like people to see that this swan in the middle of the image is important. And on the second pass of the image, they're going to see the guy in the background running after his dog. And that's going to be important for the second pass. Because it's kind of a hidden gem. It's like, why is everyone... Well, what happened to the dog? well, the owner lost control of the dog, and that's kind of the reward that I'd like. People who like to investigate or kind of look at an image a bit longer, that's the reward that I want to give them. So yeah, that's what they're going to get on that second pass. Look, I don't want to be too crazy, but I will exaggerate it for now and thin it down later. That's one great thing about Clip Studio is that you can work in vectors the entire time, which is what I've just done. And basically thicken up lines, bring down lines as much as you want with the thickening correct line width tool, they call it. I just saw it on the side there, correct line width. And this is something that you wouldn't be able to do, obviously, if you're in a traditional media. It's kind of a crutch because as good as it is, it well, it'll eventually get me into the habit of not really thinking about line weight, and that's not what I want. But it's great for just fixing things on the go. That's okay. I'm going to pay attention to where shadows should be and just thicken those bits up. But it doesn't have to be that way. Not at all. Right, now when I zoom out, the figure in the middle and the figure on the right are both immediately, they both immediately pop out. So I'm very happy with that. A right decision. I'm just going to exaggerate it a bit more, or thicken up the lines a bit more, just to get that really readable. And fill out this line here. I'll just do that there to indicate that that's the top of the dog's head rather than it's anything else. Right, so the dog figure's quite looking good. It's popping out, and I'm going to do the same with the swan now. I think it's the right decision. Also, areas where figures are on the ground will tend to have a thicker line, so I'm paying attention to that as well. In this case, the swan on the water, and that line's going to be a bit thicker. Get rid of that. These two figures as well, I'm just going to give them a bit more width. But because they already are quite small, I don't want to make their figures completely unreadable. Completely too thick. Just to bring them forward a little bit more than the grandma in the distance. That's all that I want to do. Excellent. Now when I zoom out, that image on the swan in the middle, the dog on the right, and the people are starting to pop out. Now, I don't want to go too crazy with this, like I said, because there's quite a lot of detail here anyway. So I will find a way to bring out some contrast in those people using color. All right, those are my lines. I'm going to put that aside for now because I want to start coloring and actually get something on the page before I go too crazy just focusing on lines all night, because who wants to watch that? Who wants to watch that? All right, let's start with my oil paints. Very good. Now that layer there is in color, which is excellent. That's what I want. And I'm just dealing with the standard pale tone palette. I've kind of grown a liking to this, and it's the standard palette that's in Clip Studio Paint. It works well for the reasons that I need it. So, oh, make sure that entire thing's underneath the lines. But I will make the lines a bit more opaque, just because I want to see how my colors are working together without the influence. And everything's gone a bit opaque. That's because, of course, that color layer's gone inside the other layer. So we want to bring that outside. Good. And now I can continue painting on that color layer. And you could say I'm trying to make life hard on myself by actually painting everything rather than filling it in with soft, easy, flats and stuff. But I'm trying to get into the habit of digitally painting, and that means filling out the strokes, filling out the parts with an actual brush stroke. It's kind of therapeutic as well. And that's kind of what I need after a long day. Just kind of chill out, paint a bit. It's just nice. And I don't want to be playing kind of, like I mentioned last time on my stream, I don't want to be doing just paint by numbers, as they call it. I don't want to be doing just that, which is why I had the opacity set down to so low. If I bump that back up, then alright, that's fine. It still kind of conforms to the lines, and I'm happy with that. And now I'm going to experiment with some watercolor, so why not? Why not? Indeed. Ah, so I said I'd do this last time, and I will do it, and that's painting painting this like I would traditionally, which means I'll start painting from the background. How's that? Start getting a wash in completely, and then just layer on top of it. So I want a blue sky. Um, this is really opaque watercolor, and I'm not actually happy with that. I'm going to change to transparent. Which does give me a bit more variation in the colors that are going on, and I can kind of blend like this, as if the brush was just full of water instead of pigment. And yeah, I'm a traditional watercolorist. Well, what does that even mean? I'm not like traditionally trained or anything. I just prefer doing things traditionally. I'm no professional or anything like that with my actual watercolors. I really enjoy them. I think watercolors are fun, very experimental. You can create cool like gradient effects like this very easily. And yeah, just lots of fun. Let's do a very light green wash, not one that's too saturated or pastel-y, which is what the greens tend to be when you come out of the gate. Just like a very muted green will do fine. And of course, this isn't like traditional watercolor at all. Painting watercolor digitally is just completely different. I'll take a bit of a cooler green as I go into the bushes. Yeah, it's completely different. It's nowhere near the same, but it's still fun. Blending colors, seeing things go together. And where the figures are, I'm just going to leave them masked out because I'm not going to bother. I'm going to be painting them over anyway, and not in the same wash, not in the same color. So I don't want a green dog, for example. But yeah, this is likely to go on for a while. So if you're just joining me, then welcome. Welcome along for the ride. I hope you're enjoying yourself, seeing me color in. This ink drawing was done a little beforehand and a little bit live on stream. Yeah, I welcome all of your comments, all of your feedback. Now, the reason I'm going even more loosely and kind of not really caring about the colors is because I do have the lines backing me up. I don't need to define the form completely using just color because I'm not actually painting. I'm using the lines as my forms. So if I go back and turn on those lines, which I will do in just a moment, then the lines will do a lot of the work in defining what I've actually drawn. And there you go. Well, I don't need to rely completely on my colors to tell you what's going on in the picture. I can always rely on those lines. That's one really great advantage of just, you know, combining watercolor with ink or painting with ink or, pencils or whatever you're using. Painting watercolor on its own is a bit more of a challenge. Yes, indeed, it's a challenge because you've got to define those forms on your own, and it's not always easy. Not always easy. Getting that right mix. So here I'm going to go for a bit of a toned grey, just for the hair. Let's grab a little bit of the curls, leaving a bit of light in there. Darkening up bits that should be in the shadows. Give her a nice blue dress. So if you're just joining, please say hi. Let me know how you're doing. Welcome to the stream. Let me know what your last creative project was, what your interest in art is. Yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys. What is your affiliation with art? Are you studying? Are you a buyer, a collector? Are you an illustrator or artist yourself? That's kind of, yeah, it's really, always really interesting to me. I tend to not really watch much Twitch in my free time. I will tend to use more YouTube for my videos. In particular, I like to learn a lot on YouTube, so all of my watercolor stuff I pretty much learned from YouTube, as well as one of there's a they call it a Volkshochschule here in Germany, and it's basically like a little community college. And you can sign up for classes, and it's just good fun. You get to be with other people and learn and experiment with new techniques, and it's relatively cheap to do. It's really cheap when you consider, the cost of an education these days. And yeah, anyway, I do my watercolor there, and it's really fun. That's kind of where my watercolor, well, basically all of my instruction comes from, all my practice anyway. I basically draw, paint in my free time as well, and that's fun. Yeah, that's basically it. I always loved drawing as a kid as well. Always, always, always used to do it. And for the longest time, it was all I did. I really liked drawing comics. And I'm glad I picked it up again as an adult because it's just it's just so fun. So fun to just create pictures, to create stories out of nothing. Don't know how to explain it any better than that. It's just fun. And I'm so grateful for the 100 odd followers that I have on Instagram. I'm no big fish in the ocean. Let's put it that way, you guys. But I'm grateful, so grateful for the people there who like my stuff and who get involved and they'll comment and oh, it's just so great. I used to have a friend in primary school, and I used to share all of my comics with him until yeah we graduated and we went to different schools. We don't keep in touch anymore, which is a shame. But yeah, I think I tell this story every time I'm on stream. But basically, I stopped drawing and I stopped doing my art stuff as soon as I hit high school. Kind of like an identity crisis. I guess I was just so sure that I couldn't make money from my art and that no one wanted to actually listen to what I had to say or well, I didn't really have anything to say at the time either. And these days I'm kind of just doing this to bring joy into people's lives. It's just, you know, we grow up and we go through college and university and now I'm at a stage in my life where I really want to just chill out, be happy, and keep doing what I like doing. And it's like making art. And it's good fun. It's really good fun. The hard part is finding someone to pay you for what you want to do. They don't tell you that in art school. They don't tell you that in high school. The things they teach you there are basically to get a job, and that's fine. But what if there aren't any jobs as an artist, as there often aren't? Well, then it's a perfectly legitimate thing to start your own business and to start your own path. That's what a lot of people kind of have to do if they want to realistically stay happy. It's not easy being an artist. Let's just put it that way. It's fun, but it's not easy. Especially coming up with new creations all the time and having to fund your projects and all that kind of thing. Put those colors back in. Alright, what have I got here? I've got a bit too similar colors. I really should be doing this at the end, but I'm just terribly impatient. That's so true. I'll try and repeat a few colors. While trying to get in some form. So obviously my light's coming from that direction. And so, yeah. Pop in shadows where I see fit. Okay. And you can see I'm having a lot more fun with the transparent because I can blend and get a lot more color tones in just with the one color on my brush. Just depending on how much pressure I put onto the actual pen, then I can get a whole range of shades. To get rid of that. Create an arrow and then I don't get rid of it. Oh dear. So he's got something like that. Let's give him some light colors. Maybe something like a salmon. Now the trick with watercolor, well, this applies to all kinds of painting and coloring, but like you want to be leaving your whites white, and it's more so true with watercolor because there's no way you can kind of go back and put your whites back into the image. Because you start with white paper, and if you go over that, then that's your whites gone. Now you can of course use a different medium like a gouache or something to reintroduce color into your painting. Sorry, introduce white into your painting at certain spots. But yeah, if you're doing something just in watercolor, you're gonna have to be very, very cognizant of where your whites are. I'm gonna fix up that foot. Of where your whites are, and yeah, just basically make sure you leave them white. And I'm so happy that I've learned that with watercolor because it's such a universally great skill, to just be aware, wrong layer, just to be aware of where your light and darks are coming from. And yeah, maybe I would have learned that with the other mediums as well, but it's yeah, it's front and center in watercolor, and it's something that I'm happy to learn, or happy to have learned so early on in the piece. Thinking more of a really dark blue shoe for a walk in the park, I guess. I guess this happens. I'm not 100% sure. At this stage, I'm too far in with the line work. Maybe I could have designed some better park clothing for these walkers, visitors in the park, but right now I'm a bit too far in, and yeah, I'm more interested in just getting the colors on there and figuring out the rest later. Speaking of colors, I'm going to put in a few grays. So with a larger brush, just kind of really big blocks of it, and just letting, giving an indication of form with a bit of color across there. And of course, where two surfaces touch or hit, that's where it's going to be darkest. So that's literally all I want to do here with this swan. And if I was to finish this off, I'd put a very just dark line right where the body is touching the water, because that's the darkest place, and that's where the most shadow is going to be in this rendering of the swan. And yeah, it'll be a little bit blue because of the color of the water. Here. Also a bit under the wing, because that's also another spot of extreme shadow. So just kind of pop that in there and blend it out. And this is painting. This is digital painting anyway. A lot of getting your values right. This is a weird brush. Okay, it's the same one. That's fine. That's fine. But yeah, this is digital painting, you guys. At least as far as I know it. Remembering to leave the whites white, such as here behind the swan's neck. That's important. And all I'm looking for here is just a bit of value difference to indicate form. And I will change that back. Put in a few more just general sweeps. And that's fine. Bit of orange yellow for the beak. In this case, a bit of yellow green. It's kind of like a lime green in this case. And that swan's pretty much done. Look, I ought to be doing my first wash, which is the actual entire background. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that rest of it in. And I know I've gone against everything I said about doing things paint by color, but this is how I'm going to get it done. And yeah, I'm going to get this painting done tonight. I need it to be done tonight. So this week I'd like to be able to say that well, this time next week, I'd like to be able to say that I actually streamed every single day this week. And so that's something that I'm going to try and do. Please don't hold me to it, but I'm going to try and do it. It's just a personal thing of mine where I've kind of sat on this streaming thing for a few days. I've had some successes. Some people have started to follow me, and that's really great. But I haven't really hit success yet, and I do have this thing where I just don't really tend to commit until I see results, and I want to flip that on its head just for a bit. So I'm gonna try and commit to doing a stream every day. And today I've already done 2 streams, for example. One traditional one a bit earlier today, and this one here, which is my digital one. And I'm not going to be doing 2 streams every day, but if that's what it turns out to be, then so be it. But basically, yeah, I'm just happy with what's been going on lately with my streaming, and so I'm hoping to get some more results. And like I said, this is something that I would be doing anyway, because I try to post on Instagram once every day. I don't always make it, and the last few weeks have been pretty hectic because of, attending people's weddings and just things going on in my personal life. So haven't been able to get behind a computer and actually paint. But don't you just hate that you do a really long stroke and then you press Control Z and it's just all gone? But yeah, I don't want to be doing just comics this week. I want to start building kind of a portfolio, but also a project base, just things that I do that will work toward building a career as an illustrator. So yeah, it's not just about having fun here. I really want to do something for my professional art career, which is not yet underway. That's right, I am not a paid artist. I am simply a streamer at the moment. So it's I'm not getting any income from any of my art stuff. And this is why I'm doing a lot more. I'm trying to get to a place where I feel more confident to plunge headfirst into my art, quit the day job. That would be lovely. Oh boy. And yeah, I'm well aware that none of this is going to happen without some effort on my part, and yeah, hence why I'm happy to put in a bit of elbow grease this week and try my best to just stream as much as I can. Well, not as much as I can, but just be consistent with it. Try to build a habit out of uh, out of doing this, and just get used to talking on stream. And yeah, I know not many people are looking and watching and getting involved, but hey, everyone starts from zero. And maybe you're watching this and you're a streamer yourself, or maybe you're thinking, oh, how can I make my artwork as well? And it's just I can't really help you there, apart from just say work hard. Work hard as if you were working for your employer in some crappy office job. Let's face it, most office jobs are crappy, and that's why they pay well, because no one actually wants to do them. And I've been there. I've been there so many times. I might even have to, continue doing that. But hey, not all jobs are bad. Not all jobs are bad. Let's not be too pessimistic and too negative about office jobs. But you know, most of them do pay really well. And if you're not in a market where you're in high demand, then they pay well for a reason. And the reason's usually that, well, it's not passion's work. It's not things that people enjoy. Whereas this here, me filling out pages with color, this is so fun for me. Like this brings me so much joy, just filling in grass with green and putting in all of these colors. It's just fun. And I love it. I love it, and that's why I want to do it for the rest of my life. And yeah, it's just a shame that there's not a way to kind of fund your life if you are an artist, unless you're paying, well, so not paying, if you're being paid for by others who are working, others who are investing their money into projects, or if you're financially well off enough to be able to take a risk and build out your own projects. That works as well. And that's what I'm planning to do this week as well. To find a story project and just put my time into it. Not with a particular aim of making money, or of course that would be fantastic, but just so I can put something in my resume. First of all, just something, and I think that's exciting in itself. For me to have a job under my belt, even if it is self-done, at least I can say, "Hey, I've got something on Kindle, and I've got that experience in other genres, self-publishing, etc., etc." But yeah, to have something that I've illustrated myself. Okay, all right, I have illustrated something myself, but that was not successful at all, and quite frankly, the illustrations weren't very good, and so that would never appear on my actual. Well, in its current form, it would never appear on my portfolio, just because I know I can do so much better today. But yeah, it's just about having projects that I can put onto my portfolio page on my website, and I'm really looking forward to seeing all of that. There's my grass. One last touch. Another principle to keep in the back pocket is to always have more contrast up front. So things in the foreground should be generally darker and easier to read. And my brush is far too small at this stage. I really should have been using a bigger brush. But lessons to learn for next time. Again, I'm not a digital colorist just yet. I wouldn't call myself that. I've only been doing digital for maybe a few months, maybe 2 months. Being said, I really love Clip Studio, really loving it, and I would recommend it for everyone who's starting out and just getting stuck into the world of digital coloring and illustration. Get a bit of form onto these bushes. And then allow those bushes in the distance to kind of just to really fade out on their own. And that's perfectly fine. That's what we want. We want that illusion of depth, and we're going to get that only with contrast. So I'm going to pick an even darker green and just put in a few strokes. Here and there. make sure I'm going over them several times until I'm happy with the. Right, I'll add a few more of the similar ones here. Echo that in the line work. And that's fine. Probably get rid of that one a little bit. Back to color. Yeah, I will make the foreground a lot darker, but I'll do that right after I've gotten the rest of the basic colors blocked in. Oh man, I just realized the guy looks really sunburnt. How funny is that? Poor guy. I'll fix him up in a bit. Give him a bit of a makeover. Fix up that burnt skin. If you're just joining, welcome to the stream. Give us a shout out below. Tell us where you're watching from, what you're up to, how's your day. Hope you're having a great day. Of course, I don't know where everyone's from, but here in Germany, it's coming to the evening, so the day's almost behind me. Everyone here in Europe, anyway. And hopefully, if you're watching from Europe or the UK, then you're winding down as well, having a good evening. Hope you got all your day's work in and are ready for a nice relaxing evening. With a bit of art streaming, of course. What else? I wouldn't want anything else. To go for a bit of depth in those trees as well. Here as well. Just need to. I mean, I've already got one trunk here. I'm just gonna add a bit more complexity into the background here, just to give it a bit more appearance of depth. That's one of my artistic goals as well this year, is to kind of learn how to deal with really complex shapes. Things like forests and cityscapes, those are things that I'm finding very difficult to do. And, if anyone's got any suggestions on how to deal with them, then I would love to hear, because, yeah, it's very tempting to just try and capture all of the complexity, and it's really not, it's not how the masters do it. And I have some master studies lined up. Haven't got around to them yet, but yeah. I will be getting to the topic at some point. That topic of how to deal with complexity, how to draw complexity, how to paint it. I mean, drawing it is totally fine. It's not hard at all. You just add more and more and more. But yeah, painting it is a whole different story. All right, dog here. I'm going to give a nice bright color because color layer, because he's more in the foreground. And again, I want to be coloring the foreground a little more than the background. giving it a bit more contrast so that they yeah, everything's a bit dull here, so I'm gonna really pop out that color with a bit more saturation. And that's what you can do with your second and third layers. Sorry, not layers, washes. You know, I'm talking watercolor here, but what I try to do is get that really pale, kind of insipid looking first layer of color on pretty quickly. And then after that, pull out the right colors. And I can even go for the patchy dog look, which could be interesting. Maybe just an eye. That'll do. And then just go for the, patches. With no kind of prior knowledge of what kind of dog this is. I'm kind of just designing a dog as I go along. It looks like a cow, but whatever. Look, let's fill in a bit more of that so that it looks a bit more dog-like instead of a cow. Poor thing. I'll keep the paws white though. I think he's happy like that. What a good-looking dog. It's a shame he's so naughty and he's going after the ducks and the swans instead of listening to his master back there. Getting a bit more reds. And then a nice red tongue. Again, because we're heading into the foreground, I can actually go with saturation. I can go with really bright colors and really make things stand out. That's the joy of doing things, well, the things you learn when you paint. I can really bring out those colors now. And I've kind of hopefully laid the groundwork with the previous colors on the illustration, the things in the background, that these colors here can kind of talk to each other without feeling way too out of place. Now that blue does look out of place, and the reason is because the only other blue in this image is this light one up here, and on the people's clothes over here. It does look out of place, so I'm going to fix it. And how are we going to do that? By moving a bit towards the warmer colors. So that was my airbrush tool. I don't know what's going on. There we go. And I could even push that a bit warmer, but then it'll turn a bit pink. So I'm just going to leave it there and just fix up the mistakes that I've got there. That would be a lot harder if I was in a traditional medium because those colors don't really mix. Cool. Now for a bit of texture, I'm just going to Texture is another one of those topics that I'm still trying to figure out, but I've got the general gist of it. You want to just suggest texture with a few bits here and there. It's not necessary to say if you're doing a dog like this, you don't have to do every single hair on its face to show that it has hair on its face. You just need to do enough strokes to, at the edges, by the way, at the edges, to suggest some kind of texture on the entire surface. Okay, that beak is looking out of place as well. So fix that with a bit of actual yellow. A bit warmer, something like that. It was a bit too lime green before, and now we can add in a lot more warmer tone. Good. Figure in the background. Now the reason it's done that is because there's blue already on there. Just gonna get rid of that, because that will interfere with the painting process. I mean, I know Clip Studio well enough to know. And of course, if this was on traditional, then that paint on that spot would have already dried, and then I would be able to get a bit of layering going. But because we're not traditional, this in this program anyway, it's going to treat all of the paint as if it's still wet. So there's no value in kind of leaving one spot and coming back to it later, as you would do in your traditional watercolor. Kind of just stays permanently mushy and malleable when we're talking about digital painting. So there we go. And I can stay on this pale palette again because I'm in the background. I don't need to work. And even though this color here is very, very bright, it's not saturated. It's very muted, and that's okay in the background. And something blue for the shorts. Ah, no, I've got the blue background, but this blue here will be a bit different. Last bit of detail is, well, not last, but a bit of something for the path itself. Oh, that needs to be so light in the distance. Atmospheric perspective, you guys. Things in the distance should be paler. Well, they are in reality because of the atmospheric perspective. Perspective, as they say in France. Perspective. Well, that's my guess anyway. I'm sorry if you're from France and you're disagreeing with me. Oh dear, it's been a long day. Last bit of detail would be the pond, and I can get that a bit more saturated, a bit more bluer, cerulean blue. I really like this blue. It's like a nice teal. Sorry, not teal. It's a bit aqua-ish. I like it. Okay, near the shore, make it less saturated or not as deep. Do regular folk know what I mean when I say saturated? I really hope so. I hope I'm not losing you guys. I really hope not. But yeah, there's a few things going on in that light blue in the distance there. There's the fact that the water is closer to the edge of the pond, which means that it's a bit less blue than otherwise. And there's also the atmospheric perspective, which is coming into play. So just a little bit of blue there, and that's enough. Come away from the green a bit more to do a bit more depth in the pond. And all of this stuff, I guess, I don't know, it just comes from observation, I guess. You just want to observe whenever you go into the park, like, what does the water look like, and what colors are we looking at? There was a moment in my watercolor painting class where I was drawing a red apple, and this red apple, in my mind, it was red. It was red, and it was. It was very red. But when I was painting it, I was grabbing the red and only the red. And the teacher came over and she looked at my painting and she said, "Oh, it's nice. It's got form. It looks 3D." And I was like, "Why doesn't it look realistic then? Why doesn't it look like an apple? Why does it look like an icon rather than an actual picture or a painting of an apple?" And she was like, "Well, the reason is," she was glad that I asked, by the way, "the reason was that the apple, although it's red locally all over it, it had shades of green inside it, and in the shadows it had shades of blue and pink, and it was just mind-boggling for me to think, oh my god, this red apple, this thing that is red or green in my mind, and has forever been red or green in my mind, this thing is yeah, it's got shades of pink and green and blue, and oh my goodness, my world's been open to new possibilities, and it's just, you know, really exciting." So, lesson learned. And since that day, I've just been looking at objects with that new kind of eye, just kind of breaking down. What am I seeing? What colors am I looking at without the preconception of an apple is red or a banana is yellow? There's a lot of colors, a lot that you could be looking at, and you're just not realizing it because of your preconceptions. But yeah, I mean, how are we meant to know this stuff? We're not really taught that in art school. We're kind of given that pattern paper, maybe some crayons and some paints, and we're like, okay, off you go. We're not really taught about this kind of how to see colors, and only if you take those classes in a higher level at school, I guess. So, if you're just joining, welcome to the stream. I hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are in the world. I know there are people from all over joining in. People from Europe, Canada, USA, Australia. Hello, everyone. As you can tell, I'm from Australia myself. Maybe the accent isn't too clear. I've been told that a few times. I don't really have a very clear accent. Some people have wondered if I'm from Texas, which is very interesting and completely wrong. Like from the UK, I can kind of, all right, yeah, sure. The Australian accent did originate from the UK or from England, but from Texas, I'm like, okay, all right, you're you're a bit off there. I'm sorry. Now the perspective's off. Speaking of off things, the perspective's a bit off here, so I'm gonna fix that up a little bit. Like there was just no way that that was coming from that edge. So oh no, bad me, not on the color layer. I was wondering why that was blending just so well. Get rid of that and start again. As you can see with watercolor, it's a bit difficult to get rid of a color completely unless you're using that erase tool. And in my mind, as a traditional watercolorist, that's cheating. That's absolutely cheating. But it works. It works in a digital medium. So I'm not going to hold anyone to that at all. Now I'm happy with the scene, except I've lost a bit of the contrast on the left side. Have a look at this. You kind of can't tell what stands out compared to the middle bit. Ah, it's pretty clear that that swan's pretty important. And same here, that dog. That dog's pretty special. So I'm going to bump up the colors on the left side of the bit of the illustration, and then I think I'm going to call it a night, you guys. That's going to be a wrap. But as a bit of help, I'm going to go ahead and color in this leash, because I think that's a bit of information. That helps the overall readability and aha-ness of the entire illustration here. To be honest, I don't even know what kind of emotion I'm going for in this kind of illustration. I suppose it's just I really like to entertain, and I'd like to think that I'm entertaining people with my pictures and with my stories. Maybe that's not the case. There's a great talk by Jordan Peterson, and he talks about the curse of being an artist. And what his point is that if you're an artist and you're not visible and you're not creating stuff that people are responding to, then it's kind of like a death, because artists and creative types need to have their stuff seen. And I find that so true. Like the last 5 years of my life, I haven't really been doing any of the I've been ignoring that side of me that likes to create things, and it was fine at the time because I was pretty happy with my life. But now that I've rediscovered the joy of painting, to steal Bob Ross's show name, now that I've rediscovered the joy of painting, I'm like really just enjoying it. I'm loving it. And if anyone were to take that away from me today, I'd be livid. I wouldn't accept it. There's no way you can take this away from me. I love painting. I love making art. And I love that I've got an audience. I really do. That's my point. I'm grateful that I've got an audience to show my stuff to, and it's just so fun. When people laugh at my comics or they like one of my posts, it's just so reassuring. It's like I'm on the right path. I know I'm not making money off it yet, but I'm on the right path because I'm getting reactions from people, and that's all I need to survive. Well, yeah, all right, I need money to pay the bills and make rent and blah blah blah, but as a creative person with a creative mindset, the recognition and the fact that people are looking at my stuff, that's pretty good. I could die happy knowing that. And if I could just bring a smile to children's faces, it's pretty tough to get through the parents through to the children. But my illustrations and my comics and things, I'd like to be able to reach children at one point, bring joy into children's lives. If I could do that, then I'd have made it. I'd be like life complete. You can roll the credits and go home because, man, if I can make children smile and be happy, then what's more valuable than that? You know, I don't know. I really just I like children. I just love kids, and seeing them happy makes me happy. So that's a reason. So again, I'm just putting a bit more color into these characters because I want to bring them forward and kind of separate them from the grandma in the background and the rest of the background because everything's a bit flat if I just leave the colors here flat. So that means putting a bit more color, a bit more saturation into everything, really. Once again, pumping up the color on these characters just to bring them into the foreground, just like the dog here and the swan. And the swan I may go over again just to just to really emphasize its place in the ecosystem here. I used to be really scared of colors, and the reason was that I just grew up learning how to draw only, and I'm pretty good with my lines, but when it came to color, I didn't really even know where to start. But doing a lot of tutorials online and learning watercolor, that's really helped. And if I was starting out again, I'd probably just say just get straight into it. Like it's really not something that you can learn by reading a book on color theory. It really helps, yes, but you do need to practice it. It's not like you can't just keep reading books on color theory and think that you can apply it straight away. It's something you got to learn by doing. And if I could speak to myself back when I was starting out on this journey, I'd say don't pretend that you can master drawing. You can never master drawing. There's always more to learn. There's always more to try. There's always more experimentation to do. And you're never going to complete mastering drawing. So just jump into color. Just do it because yeah, what are you waiting for? It's scary, but just try it. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. That's kind of my attitude throughout the last few weeks of my life is just do it because life's way too short. Way too short. And recent events have kind of highlighted that for me. Life's just too short, you guys. Follow your dreams. If you want to learn how to color, then just learn how to color. Well, not learn how to color, but just do it. Just do it. It's so cheap to get a bunch of paints or just learn how to do it on a digital painting program. It's really easy. Just try it. You'll be surprised. You won't get it right the first time. Guarantee you will not get it right the first time, but at least you're learning by doing. And the faster you start, then the faster you'll master it. So the faster you'll improve and get better. And that's just the way it is. I'm not going for perfection in any of this. I'm just going for readability. And this is another one of my, Nelssonisms is kind of part of the just do it kind of attitude because I used to be pretty perfectionist, hey? I was the squid at school. I would sit at the front of the class and I'd be the one answering all the questions and yeah, that was me. That was me, your resident nerd. But it's great in school, but it's not going to serve you later in life when there is no solution. There is no optimal for anything that you're doing. When you're in the workplace, you learn pretty damn quickly that you need problem solving. You don't need a solution book. And yeah, I really don't know why, but the schools continue to push the old model of kind of teaching where there is one solution and that's it. I don't think it's relevant in today's world. But yeah, then again, I'm not a teacher. What do I know about teaching? I don't have a degree in teaching. But yeah, I guess this is just stuff that I would have wished for myself when I was growing up. And part of that is, yeah, all the things that I've been talking about. Here, what I'm doing is creating a bit of form just through color. And that's something that's fun as well. It's the difference between coloring and painting. What I've been doing for most of this is kind of paint by numbers, but not really, not really. Close to it though. Because if I took away these lines, watch, watch, watch. Oh crap! I've been working on the line. Oh my goodness. Let me get rid of all of this. All of this. This is so frustrating. I'm sorry, you guys. All right, I think that's the end of it. Look, it's not going to make it worse. I'm just going to continue on this one. Anyway, I've kind of lost my train of thought now, but I'm sure I'll come back to it at some stage. But yeah, I was just wanting to redefine or more better define the forms on the swan. And once I've done that, I think I'm pretty much done with the illustration. All right, yeah, yeah. So I was going to show you the reason I said it was paint by numbers, and when I take off the lines, you can see that the image doesn't speak on its own. Yeah, there's forms on the image, but they're not defined, and you can kind of, if you squint your eyes, you can kind of see, yes, there's a dog on the right side and humans on the left side, but that swan in the middle, for example, like I can't quite grasp what it is. I can guess at what it is, but the forms aren't fully defined and I can't perfectly I can't read it without these lines helping me to decipher just what's going on. And that's the difference between what I call paint by numbers and really painting. Really painting would be, okay, here's an image in whatever clarity it is. Like it doesn't mean that everything has to be well defined, but the image on its own should be pretty readable. You know, you want to painting is about defining forms with colors, and drawing and painting, sorry, drawing and then paint by numbers is defined with the lines first and then the colors later. The colors support the lines, and the colors don't stand on their own as much. Handy tip, very handy tip. Another one that I learned from my watercolor class. So those things are really worth it. So again, the suggestion of some texture here, just with some. That's in the wrong spot. That definition of texture wants to be often, more often than not, in the shadows. So, and usually where things meet, light and shadow meets. The great thing about learning fundamentals like color and light is that you don't need to know anatomy, you don't need to know everything about the subject that you're painting. You can kind of, well, guess. Like, I know that a swan is, it's like a bird, yes, but the body is kind of like a cone. Its neck is like a cylinder. Um, yeah, once you know those basic shapes, you can kind of just quite easily guess at the forms without really knowing the anatomy. Yeah, you kind of should know the basic workings of a bird, like where the wings go and how its body is shaped, but you don't need to know all of it. And that's the that was another hurdle that I had when I was growing up, learning how to paint and draw. It was like, oh, I need to learn every subject and I need to learn every single thing there is to know about the human body, all the bones, all the muscles. It's like, well, not really. You just need to know form, know the fundamentals, and then all of that stuff is supplemental. It really helps. It doesn't have to be the be all end all. And yeah, if I was doing some really detailed study on the form of a bird, then sure I would do a proper study and actually learn how a swan might behave. And the proper anatomy of it. But yeah, as it is right now, I'm communicating an idea. Anyway, I'm going to stop rendering this bird in just a second because I could spend all night on this, and I don't want to because I want to go to bed soon. Anyway, I think that's it for the coloring. Um, yeah, I've really appreciated you watching, and yeah, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me. My name's Nelson. I am a budding illustrator, and I would really love your support. If you would follow me on this Twitch stream, I would love it. And if you would join me on my Instagram, on my Facebook, all of my links are below. And you can catch me on all of them. You can find me there. And I'm open to all of your questions and would love to hear from you. So that's it from me tonight. I hope to see you again tomorrow. Please join me then at the same time. Peace out. Have a lovely day. And we'll see you next time.